Welcome to Happiness in the City. This is Barbara. It's just so nice to be here and to talk about things connected with pursuit of happiness. And today I'd like to focus our attention on a very important topic, and that is the concept of spirit. What is spirit? It's very closely connected with the word to breathe, because when we can breathe, we breathe in spirit in and out, breath. So there's distinction between our being, our life, and spirit. And throughout the ages, all cultures of Earth, all generations know about that. That's something that is very important to understand. And the reason is that many breathing difficulties are not connected with our health, our physical health, but with our connection to the spirit that animates us. And that is something that, as you know, no doctor is studying in medical schools, and yet it's so foundational. So let's go to see what Wikipedia is talking about the word spirit. And I start with Wikipedia, but I like definitions of words. I love precise knowledge of history of words. It's important because sometimes people use certain words and they assume that the person they communicate to or people they communicated to understand exactly the same thing, but sometimes a lot of misunderstandings are connected to the fact that people don't read precise definitions of words, use them in the wrong way. So here, the Wikipedia article on spirit is huge. It talks about etymology, usage, related concepts, and this topic is vast because the related concept to the word spirit is awareness, soul, and in future programs I'll come back to this. But today I wanted to talk about spirit because the world is dealing with epidemic which is called COVID-19, and I've looked at this. Holy Spirit gave me gift of discernment, and in this particular situation I see the problem is spiritual. It's in the spirit, in the connection of spirit to breath, that creates that vulnerability for people to have difficulty in the immune systems to fight off that particular virus. But I think that that particular virus is just an example in which we can understand the connection between our physical health, breathing, and spirit that makes breathing possible, because life actually is in the spirit. Breathing is just a mechanism that allows us to connect to our lives. So any connection between breath and spirit is connection of life and death. And I think that we have that fear now, and people are freaking out because they don't understand why this particular virus is spreading so much. And I've been looking at this issue also for my own self-interest. I don't want to get that kind of bad health. So I decided to talk about need for literacy in our lives about the matters connected with how life connects to our physical bodies. Once that life is within our physical bodies, then doctors can take care of it. There's huge, wonderful knowledge about it. But if doctors ignore the connection between spirit and breathing, then healing of the body will not bring any results, because the healing is necessary to have the right connection between breathing in the body, breathing ability, lungs, respiratory system, and the spirit. Why this is happening, why the spirit of life is being blocked in so many countries, in so many nations, is a difficult question. I asked God about it, and God definitely understands why this is happening, but God is the one who controls spirit. And in this particular case, I don't mean spirit as anything else other than spirit of life. So the way I understand and talk about spirit today in this particular program is spirit of life, what animates us. Because sometimes people use the word spirit referring to evil spirit. They really mean demons, devils, other entities, ghosts. But in my particular case, I decided to talk about spirit as the vehicle for life force. People in China actually understand it very well. And we need to learn from that ancient culture about that, because a lot of problems people have in health has nothing to do with their physical body, but with how they connect to life, to the spirit that animates them. And let's see how this particular definition says that spirit is the vital principle or animating force within all living things. And there is there's just another wonderful part of it, that it is a supernatural being, but all life comes from God. So just the fact that spirit has that life is simply a fact that all life comes from God. We cannot create life just by willing it. So all life comes from God, and this is one of the ways in which this particular definition is clarified. And when you read that article in Wikipedia, you will see how complicated it is and how many different cultures understand it differently. In Christian Jewish tradition, which is my tradition and faith, Spirit of God, Ruah, is spirit. And if we connect with Spirit of God in the right way, there's a beautiful blessing coming to us. But if there is sin, disconnection between Ruah, Spirit of God, and the person, then there are problems within the person's life, health. So this is something that is fascinating to know. And I've been reading those articles, and I was surprised to see how people in later saints of Jesus Christ, Moran Church, understand it, and how they even don't call it just invisible force, but they understand that all spirit is material, because it bears life, and life is material. We cannot see life, we can only see manifestations of life within us, but it is matter that comes to us from God, from kingdom of God. There's no life in hell, but there is life in paradise and kingdom of God. So spirit has invisibility, but it is still connected to matter, life itself. And that should be respected and honored, and it isn't. And now we have a situation in which all governments of the earth think that the only way to deal with this particular problem is to spend more money on research or other antidotes that would help deal with future situations of a virus of that kind, but they are all helpless to deal with this currently. And I've been reading a lot about this and looked at many conferences, all the government officials talking about money and more funding and restrictions and all of those things that are connected to economic activities. Not even one person mentions that may be a problem with the spirit, with how we connect to life itself. And that's why I think that we should turn to God for wisdom on how to deal with this, because He's the author of all life. He creates spirits. Our personal spirits are created at our conception, and they are always with us, and they bring life to us that we breathe in and out, in and out, and that's a mystery and an amazing thing that we experience. So I encourage you to read this article. There's another definition that I'd like to talk about. Okay, so by definition of spirit by Merriam-Webster. And once again, here we have this amazing, wonderful dictionary. And here there are many sub-definitions. And an animating or vital principle held to give life to physical organisms. So let's talk a little bit about that. An animating or vital principle held to give life to physical organisms. So we have to have that understanding between spirit giving life to us and breathing, respiratory faculty of our lives to receive it. And today the problem with COVID-19 is about breathing, and then this very quick way in which it spreads, and then people are talking about social distancing and all kinds of restrictive measures, which frankly can make the whole thing even worse, because they will be restricting flow of life force to us. And I think that this is an opportunity for the whole world to consider a different way of looking at health in the context of our nature to receive life from our spirit. And that is very important, because a lot of industries, a lot of workplaces, a lot of situations in life are organized around money, profits, and then the spirit making the employers' life possible is ignored. And then people get sick. There's all kinds of dissatisfaction with work. And I think that the whole world missed on that knowledge that it's very important to understand that breathing without healthy connection to the spirit that provides life is not going to bring a lot of health to the body. And now we have a situation in which the whole entire world economy is in danger of collapsing because of that. So I am using my knowledge and my connection to the Spirit of God to bring in awareness and healing to this. And we have to go into the future as a transformed mankind. We cannot continue doing what we have been doing, which is focusing on money alone as the only standard to organize our daily life and our sense of value. Because now we are in a situation where it can all end up lost. So before that happens, I turn to God and ask for all of us to calm down and to connect with ancient knowledge of our ancestors and also the biblical teachings. This particular teaching is in all religions, I checked. In one way or another, it's understood, it's part of natural law. So you don't have to have higher level knowledge of Kingdom of God to understand that. So this particular principle is understood by all people all over the world. And yet it was repressed in the way daily life is organized. So somehow the problem is in how authority that has forced to impose rules and regulations and to force people into compliance. Sometimes it seems that compliance was to ignore the spirit of life and to just focus on money. And that is not a good thing. So when we keep going into the future and we are dealing with this very dangerous situation, I encourage you to become creative in your thinking, not to get stuck in past ways that led to this disaster, but to be creative and intelligent in understanding how to get out of this by reconnecting with our nature. And that nature is that we, in our body, in our breathing, in our health, are connected to the vehicle that God created that gives us that life every moment, every second. Even like one moment you don't have it, it's over. So it's very vital. And I'm beginning to ask God to give me vision for modern world about it. I'm very lucky that my grandparents understood it, especially my grandmother. She showed this to me when I was a little girl. I spent a lot of time with her. She showed it to me. And then I went to schools that were very atheistic, anti-God, and that was repressed on me, that knowledge about relationship between spirit that provides life to us and our breathing health. And she knew also how to deal with this with groups of people, families, groups of people that she had in her crown. So the way we can deal with a problem that really is disruption of the connection between spirit and natural immunity within the body at such a large scale, we have to understand very precisely what led to this massive creation of global monetary transfers without any attention being paid to life and life force and our needs as human beings. And those needs are not only income but also daily life needs. So we have to do some intense thinking about it. In this particular case, money alone will not solve what money contributed to. Money is important, but it has to be also connected to the rhythm of life and that connection between spirit and breathing that allows that life from the spirit to come to us. So we have to become literate about this again, as our ancestors were literate about it. And when we have that understanding, we'll be able to create ways in which people connect in peaceful ways, in ways in which a large group of people, like during a concert of rock and roll band, is there together, and there is this huge connection of their spirits with each other, and everybody is happy and healthy and comes out energized and filled with affectionate, loving connection to each other. That's a healthy way to connect individual lives with individual spirits with other individual lives and spirits in groups. And that is very important to understand. Because if we think that just because there is this one virus and that we can solve that by restricting connections between people and restricting the way to which spirit that provides life connects within us and then with groups around us, we'll never be able to solve that problem. Because in this particular case, the disruption of breathing is caused by disruption of the relationship between breathing and life provided by the spirit. So it's very important. And if people who have positions of authority continue to ignore it, they will make everything worse for themselves and for others. So now we have a situation that everybody should be interested in the right way of getting out of this mess. Because this particular virus has no respect of persons, it goes after anyone. So we have to be very intelligent about it. And we have to look into what needs to be done to restore the healthy relationship between our spirit that God gave us and the breathing. Life can come to us only from the spirit that provides it, and then that animates our lives, our bodies. What I say, that life animates our bodies. So in closing, I'd like us to develop ways of understanding relationship between wealth and life, wealth and people who participate in that wealth. And we should also come back to honoring God. I know that not everybody understands God the way I do. I come from Judeo-Christian tradition. My God is Yahweh. And in Christian tradition, He came as Jesus Christ of Nazareth, became visible for mankind. And in Jewish tradition, He is the spirit that rules and lives in Israel. So we have to understand that this particular understanding of God means that there is connection between spirit of God and life within the flesh, the body of a person. In other traditions, in other religions, it's understood in a different way, but every religion on earth understands that without spirit of life, life doesn't exist. So this is something that the entire mankind shares. And we should understand how to have healthy connection between our bodies, breathing, and spirit that carries life to our breath. Life doesn't come from the breath, it comes from the spirit to our breath, to our breathing. And I think that we should develop ways to care for our spirits. And that will be much cheaper than what is happening right now. And I think that as dangerous as the situation is, I pray to God He'll turn it around for good, that people all over the world will understand His ways, and that people all over the world will start respecting each other's being, not only as physical beings, but also as participants of this amazing life force that comes from Kingdom of God. Thank you so much for listening to this, and may the entire world be blessed by God.